Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, a truly unique podcast where we turn our lights, we focus our energies on the founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage companies. So definitely marching to the beat of our own drum. I'm so excited for today's episode. We have a great show lined up for you with one of the founders of Bold Bean Coffee, Zack Burnett, and his father founded the company. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer together through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. So on to the show. And today, as I said, we have Zack Burnett from Bold Bean Coffee. The guy really has such an impressive approach and experience. I'm sure I won't do it justice, but I'll do my best. Bold Bean Coffee Roasters is a specialty coffee roaster, retailer, and is really getting vertically integrated. They're based out of Jacksonville, and in the course of his almost couple decades in the industry, he's worked in coffee roasting, quality control, research and development, green coffee sourcing, which we've had the mention of green sourcing a couple times on the show in the last month or so, and importing, B2B and B2B sales, equipment sales and service, barista training, business consultation, cafe, roastery, business management. He's such a committed guy, so I'm so excited to welcome him. Welcome, Zack, to the show.
Thank you very much, Duncan.
So, Zack, it's safe to say that you are just immersed in coffee in every way possible.
I am. Coffee, it really grabbed a hold of me 17 years ago when I got in this business. Never expected to be this obsessed with, a beverage with coffee. But yeah, coffee does that to people. You get in there, you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden, 17 years later, it's your life.
That's a song in the making. Coffee grabbed a hold of me. And then the 17 years part. So, let me ask you this. What was the first cup of coffee, or what was the experience that led you to get grabbed?
Well, I kind of fell into this business. I graduated college with a fine arts degree. I was a photographer, and I like photography because I enjoy being outside and being immersed in my natural world. I went into that field because my idea was to somehow find a job to get somebody to pay me to fly around the world and see beautiful places and take pictures of it. Right around the time I graduated college, my dad came to me with an idea. He was retiring from the journalism business. So he was a journalist his whole life. He came to me with an idea that he was going to start a small coffee roastery in his retirement to basically roast coffee and sell it at farmers markets. And that was about it. So I didn't have anything going on at that time. I had said, hey, I don't know anything about coffee, but, let's do this. Let's figure it out. So that's how it started. I started with him, didn't know specialty coffee was a thing. When he told me he was going to be roasting coffee, I've pictured him over like an open fire in a wok roasting beans. That's how little I knew about the process. But I quickly learned that it was not that. At that time, I thought specialty coffee was going to the grocery store and getting your, double fudge flavored coffee. And that was something special for me. But once I started learning about the depth of the coffee industry, how many lives it touches, how important it is to people's day, it really just grabbed a hold of me and made me want to delve, completely into that.
Well, I'm glad you did. You really have built a great business. And one of the things that really struck us about you and your work is it's all about community. And, how, I guess, what's been your philosophy with, of course, starting with great beans, but then creating a space where people feel connected to each other?
Yeah, so when I got into the business, I quickly realized through selling coffee at farmers markets and, talking with people there, how much it meant to people. We would have people come to our stand at the farmers market and just tell us it was their favorite time of the week to come and talk to us a little bit and grab a bag of beans and a cup of coffee. And it really made me realize that coffee, more than just a product, is something that connects people and really brings people together. And it's, the thing that's in the middle of the table when people form businesses, when people get engaged and make these huge life decisions. Fast forward a couple years later, and we opened our first coffee shop, and I realized this even more. Like I am completely obsessed with like the quality of coffee and the process of coffee, but I realized through opening coffee shops that it's all about the experience that somebody has when they come in that shop. So, we can make them the best cup of coffee possible, but if that experience isn't reflected, isn't a good one, then that great cup of coffee doesn't even matter. People connect with each other. People connect with experiences much more than they connect with some bean juice in a cup. So that coffee really just serves as that catalyst for connections.
More than a catalyst, I would suggest, more like a
Yeah.
change agent, right? Because I mean, it does get involved in the process, but hey, that's just semantics. But I love the mission that you operate with. You're not just interested in coffee, but you're really, really obsessed, as you say, with making sure that even the partners that you suggest, for your the coffee partners, you're very particular about how you select those and your values. What values do you look for in your coffee partners?
So we have coffee suppliers in each country of origin. Most smaller and even medium-sized coffee roasters, they buy a lot of their coffee through brokers. And that's how we started our business. We were buying through coffee brokers, and it's as easy as opening up a website and seeing, oh, this Costa Rican coffee tastes like peaches and honey. Hitting a button, you get 10 bags on your loading dock, the next day. So it's pretty disconnected. So about 15 years ago, I decided that I wanted to get more involved in actually what happens in the country of origin and make stronger connections with the people who are supplying our coffee. So it is really value based, and it's based on relationships that we've created over these past 15 years with the suppliers of our coffee. So whatever country of origin we're in, one of the big values that we have is that people are focusing on this continued refinement. Like they're currently good at their process, but being good at your process or even great isn't enough. Being better each season after season. It's, a similar value that we share with our process here in the roastery is every single time we approach the roaster, we want it to be an improvement from that last time we roasted that same coffee. So just finding these people that are equally as obsessed of continual refinement is big. We share a value with the suppliers of our coffee and sustainability. And I know sustainability is an overused word in this industry, but for us, it's kind of all encompassing, talking about the economics and the environmental impact of what's going on with coffee. We want people who are focused on, can I be growing coffee on this land in 3 generations? And what does it mean to be able to do that? And furthermore, is this a business that's going to be profitable for me? Because, a coffee farmer is a small business owner just like myself. And if I was not making enough money to feed my family or reinvest into the business every year, there's no reason for me to stay in this business. So sustainability on both the economic and environmental fronts and continual progression, that's basically what we're looking for.
That's amazing. I mean, that just is a wonderful concept. We practice it as well, where, I mean, it's a Japanese concept, right? Like continuous improvement. And when you think about, man, if I just make one tiny thing better every day, that's 365 things I've made better in a year. And
Exactly.
the cumulative impact is fantastic. You've been known to talk about the bold-hearted. What does that mean to you, and how does that translate to someone, that's in your world?
Yeah, so for us, the name of our company, Bold Bean Coffee, it pays homage to the city that we're from. Jacksonville is known as the bold new city of the South. So that's how we came up with the name of the company. It's something in the specialty coffee industry that the word bold is not always perceived in a positive light. People tend to think, oh, it's dark roasted coffee. So we kind of reframed that. We still want to pay homage to Jacksonville. I've lived in Jacksonville since I was a kid, and I love this place. So we wanted to reframe that boldness and the approach that we take to coffee. So we're roasting delicate, like highly nuanced coffees, and we're bold in the way that we have basically figured out this company and the way all of our processes of sourcing, roasting, serving, and everything from the ground up. And we just take chances. We are not kind of sitting around and waiting for something to happen. When we see something we want to do, we figure out how to do it and we take a chance on it. And we just like to be bold in that way.
I wanted to ask you a question, that maybe there are some people that, might not like this question. I think you will appreciate my intention here. That we've seen, like, in the last, whatever, I guess 24 years, the proliferation of coffee in coffee shops, right? I mean, Starbucks has led the charge of taking coffee into, places that coffee maybe wasn't appreciated to that extent before. But also I feel like they have, in many ways lowered the bar, and they're selling, ostensibly healthy, but maybe not sugary drinks, right? Now, so what about people that want to get more immersed in coffee? Let's say Joe Smith wants to get more involved in coffee, in specialty coffee, but he's a bit intimidated. What advice do you give someone like that?
Yeah, I think as a consumer who comes into a coffee shop and feels intimidation, I feel that same feeling sometimes going into coffee shops, and that is the job of the people who run those shops, to make sure that people aren't intimidated coming in. It's been our approach since day one that what we're going to do is we're going to serve the absolute best coffee we can, but we're going to do it in a super approachable manner. So I tell every time we hire a new barista, I still do orientations with everybody who, comes on our team. And I tell them, whether we're pulling a shot of a single origin washed Kenya espresso for a, true coffee aficionado, or we're making somebody a vanilla latte with 15 Truvia in it, we're going to make the best one of those things that somebody wants. And we're going to serve it to them in a way that is sort of like coming in and welcoming them and giving them a hug almost over the counter, so that they don't have that intimidation. And, I think that all of that responsibility lays on the people behind the bar. You should make people feel good when they come in the shop. And, I think for consumers who want to take it on their own, and, we've luckily seen over the past 15 years, people get super nerdy about coffee, which we love. I think experiment, try as many coffees as you can, take notes, read. Coffee's that type of thing. The more you learn about it, the more you realize like you don't know anything about it. So you can keep uncovering things and going down the wormhole. So if it interests you, just go for it.
I love one of the things that you all believe in, which is that, quote unquote, baristas have the power to positively affect a large number of people on any given day. We believe this chain reaction can be the catalyst for positive local and cross-national change. We want our customers, wholesale partners, and communities to feel embraced through authentic customer service and top-notch coffee. And the fact that you're living it, I love, love, love. You are still involved with orientation and mentoring. And I think, all the gurus are going to say, if you're trying to scale a company, you can't do that, Zach. But I think nobody can do that better than a founder. Nobody can do that. That is why the power of, that the founder brings to the table.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we bring new people onto our staff, and, we're very fortunate. I know a lot of people have a lot of issues with staffing these days. That's not one of our issues. We have very low turnover once people do come on our team. And when we do have turnover, we are very good at hiring very good people who represent our values well. And I think that having that involvement with people on our team, it really kind of like shows them what's important to us. And I can't grow the business if I'm in the shop every single day. But if we can do a good job of letting our staff know what's important, what we want to see, then they have, over the past 17 years done an extremely good job of representing what's important to us and, really building a great culture inside of our shops.
And you're doing that on the roasting side as well, right? Because I've seen where you guys are very focused on trying to like fine tune the roasting on a daily basis.
Yeah. So our approach with that is, each coffee kind of needs to be treated a little bit differently in the roaster. And, we go through 25 to 35 different coffees every year. So all of that starts on like very small scale roasters where we kind of just get to know the coffee, get to know how it wants to be treated and how, the best applications of energy from the burner through the bean. Once we kind of set these profiles that we want to follow, based on the flavors that we want to highlight in the coffees, it doesn't end there. We're always, refining it every single roast. And it's not, it's small changes, over the course of a time when a coffee is in our warehouse. So our idea is we're going to release something initially that's great, but it's going to be even more great, 15, 20 roasts in.
That's amazing. What are some of the trends in the coffee world that you're excited about?
I think, trends that I'm excited about, it's there are a lot of trends that I'm not too excited about, but the ones that I am excited about are kind of going in the opposite direction of like what's real trendy in coffee right now. There's a real big trend on like very heavy processing and involving different ingredients in the processing of coffee. If you're into it, that's great. But for me, like the very important thing about coffee and what excites me is that it's like a true expression of the land that it came from and the people that produced it. Something that I don't think is a trend yet, but I expect that we will see as a response to the trend that's going on right now is even lighter hand on processing and letting that coffee's true character carry through from the cherry all the way to the cup. We saw it in roasting about 20 years ago. That whole the concept of how are we going to roast this coffee kind of changed from very dark, covering up all of the origin character to going to very light and letting it all shine through. And now we're kind of like somewhere in the middle. I think that, what we're going to see is a lot more detail into, soil management and really focusing on the ground first. And then, that way you can affect the flavor of the coffee from the ground up, basically.
Let's give a couple of shout outs to some of our friends. I know that we're both friends with Emily McIntyre.
Yeah.
She's doing a lot of really, really cool things in the coffee world. And then also Jake Leonti, who was telling me about he was I'm trying to age coffee in bourbon barrels and was doing interesting things there. And then Michael Schultz, of course. So anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now.
Maybe Papa, huh?
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to my dad, Jay.
That's awesome. Yeah, shout out to your dad. What about, you all are very committed to your social media. You'll use it for your brand loyalty. Are there any campaigns or even a post that you recall that you really loved?
I think just overall what we try to do with our social media and, we have people somebody on staff manages social media for us. And we talk about it every time we meet about social media is we're not using this platform as a platform to sell things to people. I don't think anybody really wants to get on Instagram and see just a bunch of ads. So what we're doing is we're using Instagram and social media to basically just let people know the personality of the business. When we first started thinking about how are we going to approach social media, we didn't have a plan really. But my plan was I want people, first time you pick up your phone and look at Instagram of the day, if you scroll through and see something from Bold Bean, it's going to make you feel like you're sitting in the shop. And that's basically how we approach it.
I wanted to ask you about that because I noticed that there's, especially in the last few months, I don't know if it's a natural light or if it's manipulated, but man, it looks amazing. There's a slight kind of a golden kind of a vibe to all the photos, which looks like, the light that you see from the evening sun or the morning sun. Is that an intentional thing?
It is. Yeah. We've got a guy on staff. He's a barista of ours and he takes all the photos for the Instagram, named Matthew Young. And Matthew, first of all, he just has an amazing eye, like the way that he can compose photos. And, the majority of his subjects are not like coffee shop subjects. He's an excellent landscape photographer. And the way that he sees light and the way that he composes his photos, it really brings you to that place. So I think it's definitely helping us fulfill that goal of making people feel like they're with us, even though they're looking at a 4-inch telephone screen.
I mean, I love that authenticity. I was just looking at it, and I'm a photographer by training, and I was like, that light is just amazing in those photos. So that's really cool. Coffee. I also wanted to ask you. I was talking to William. He's the founder of William from H2Go. It's a sparkling water. I actually have one of the cans right here. Energy water, and
Cool.
he's based in Vermont. It's organic, fruit infused, caffeinated energy water, and the only thing they're using in it for caffeine is green coffee beans.
Okay.
So it's interesting because I know a lot of the energy drinks use a lot of like fucked up shit in there. But I wanted to give a shout out to him. So what's your personal, I had to ask this question. Is there a favorite go-to brew method that you have and a coffee that you're really in love with at the moment?
I'm pretty simple when it comes to coffee. I really love just like a hand poured, like I use a Hario V60, which is just like a single cup pour over. I love the coffee that makes. I also love the opportunity that it gives you to just take a moment in your day and do something for yourself. You take 5 minutes to brew that cup and you're hopefully not thinking about much and you're getting all the good aromas. And then the result of that is a tasty cup of coffee. So I think that there's something beautiful in just that like whole experience of slowing down and making something for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I completely resonate with that. I mean, I saw that fellow just released it's an automatic pour over, and I was like, I mean, I can understand why somebody would want that. Not for me, because I love the fact that I'm using my elegant, gooseneck kettle, and I'm gonna stand there and pour it. I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna wait for the cone or the what do you call that? The cone, right? When the coffee all sticks to the side. After
you got the bloom at the beginning.
The bloom.
Draw down. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to hurry it up. It's like, to me, those 5 minutes are very intentional. And I'm even like, I'm weird. I'll pick the cup that I want that day. So it's not the same cup every day. Every day it's a different cup. So my son was saying to me, why do you need so many cups? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
And so what's your favorite coffee these days?
So I've been really loving the coffees that we're getting from Colombia. I think that there's such a variety of different flavor profiles that come from that country. It's a huge country. There's tens of thousands of different microclimates and regions in Colombia. And we're really lucky to partner with some really great people down there to get what I think is the best coffee coming out of the country. We just got through the sample roasting process and put the first production roast on Thursday of a coffee it's grown by a guy named Julian Calderon. from a little tiny town in Huila, which is a region of Colombia called Palestina. And coffees from this town of Palestina, in and around Palestina, are just absolutely beautiful in their complexity, and they're like juicy, citric, kind of tropical acidity. And Julian is one of the best producers there, and he's only been doing it for a very short time. So it's like super exciting to think about what this coffee is going to be like in 10 years. If it's already like this, it's amazing.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. A couple of fun questions. If you could pair a bold bean blend with any fictional character, who would it be, and what would that coffee taste like?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to take a minute to think on this one. Fictional character. Huh.
Well, while you're thinking about that one, let me ask you another question.
Okay.
Being an entrepreneur, clearly a very difficult job, and you have a lot of people depending on you. And, some days it's the most exciting thing you're ever doing. Some days it's a slog. What keeps you motivated and going, Zack?
I think the biggest thing is that piece of continual refinement. Like some days as an entrepreneur aren't good. You go home and it's been a rough day. But just getting up the next morning, and I'm a big believer in, things happen and you get stressed, but you need to start each day like it's fresh. Approach it with a fresh mind. And, that helps a lot, going in and not getting hung up on what went wrong, but, never getting hung up on the problems, but always just progressing and figuring out the solution to those problems. So I think that, there are a lot of, problems that need to be solved when you run a business. And I think that that's what kind of keeps me motivated all the time, is just the excitement of being able to solve problems. And, it's like a puzzle. So solving problems, focusing on refinement, and just focusing on making yourself better every single day is what keeps me going.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. What about what some exciting things on the horizon for Bold Bean?
One thing that we're continuing to push really big on is direct to consumer sales through our website. That was kind of it was honestly a complete afterthought for us up until March of 2020, and our sales on the website went from being like very insignificant to overnight being like a significant part of our business as soon as COVID hit and things shut down. So it was really great that we already had that platform set up to be able to accommodate that. And it was completely unexpected. One thing that I think, COVID did to the coffee industry that was a great thing was that it made people demand better and better coffee to be able to brew in their home. So it's really exciting to me that we get to continually like raise the bar on the quality of our coffee, because that's what the consumers are demanding. So pushing more towards that home coffee brewer, and really developing different avenues to get great coffee into people's hands. Like something that we just launched is a text to buy program. We just did our first text out to our text subscribers with that this past week, and it completely exceeded our expectations on it. We were expecting, maybe a 10% conversion rate, but we had close to a 30% conversion rate on that text to buy program. So just creating these like very frictionless ways to get people really great coffee is something that's really exciting to me. And, the continued growth and higher expectations of the home coffee brewer and drinker, I think is going to be an overall really great thing for our industry.
That's so cool. And let's remind everyone where they can find your coffee one more time.
Yeah, you can find it at boldbeancoffee.com. We ship all over the country. We ship to military bases all over the world. Anybody who wants coffee, will ship it to your door, and it'll be there, within a couple days of us shipping it out.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zack. I really appreciate it. And thank you for making the world better and your commitment, to your craft and to the continuous improvement. We love your insights, really from the heart of Bold Bean Coffee Roasters, from mastering the art of roasting and your opinions on baristas and being involved with the orientation on a daily basis and fostering community, even the light in the pictures. I mean, it's a great vision that you have. And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive. Really haven't had anything like this on the Firebelly Social Show. We've talked about the business in other ways, but not in this way. So remember to check out Bold Bean Coffee Roasters, for your next beautiful, I'm not going to say caffeine fix, I'm going to say for your next beautiful experience with coffee. And thank you, Zack. Thank you so much for joining.
Duncan, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Zack. And you've been listening to another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we shine a light on leaders and founders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.